when you paint with gloss paint, it's advisable to use a very, very, very soft brush. I've got a number 12 brush here, which I'm using, which has got very soft bristles, so you don't get any hair strokes. I like to use gloves as well because I don't like this stuff on my hands. It's very hard to get off. So the painting of the can is pretty straightforward. All you do is you pick up your can, which is silver like this, and just do a blob in the middle, go round. There's your can all painted. Now just put them all aside to dry. Unfortunately with gloss paints it takes 12 hours to dry, so put them somewhere that they're not going to blow over. So while we're waiting for the paint to dry, I've just made a small little jig type thing. It's just a little box like that, on 3 sides. It's not quite a box, it's just closed in on 3 sides. So when I put the can in, it holds it in place for when it comes time to drilling the holes. So you can either use a template, cutting another can into the shape. Now the measurement from here, if you're using a template, from the rim of the silver to where you're actually going to drill is 6 millimeters. From point across to the other side where you're going to drill is 77 millimeters. I know they're a bit strange measurements, but that's how the cans and bottles bend. So 77 millimeters there and 6 millimeters in. If you're going to use something else, I've just taken my little jig that I made and used a plastic straw, and I've found markers on the cans where it lines up exactly to 77 millimeters. So when I go on top of this, I don't know whether you can see that, on top of the 10-cent mark there, and go all the way round to the end of the circle, that gives me my 77. So put your can in, line it up with your marking, and then it's going to make a bit of a noise, but here we go. So if you've got a drill press, it's going to make it a lot easier. If you don't, it's just going to be a very, very long, hard process. So there's the drill mark. From there around to there is exactly 77 millimeters, and it's in by 5 millimeters on this one. Just 5 millimeters when you're doing without the template. When you use the template, it's a 6 millimeter and 77 millimeters that way. Please make sure when you're drilling to wear eye protection. All cans are right. So now they're all cans are painted and drilled. It's time to cut them. Preferably wear some gloves, because when you're cutting a large quantity like this, no matter how careful you are, you're going to cut yourself. And I've just taken a wee piece of cardboard like this just to mark a distance so that I can use it as a reference for when I'm cutting them. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take our can where we've drilled our holes, which is on both sides like that. We're actually going to be cutting out this part. So first thing you want to do is to cut the top off. Then the distance. Now these measurements that I'm giving you are specific to the cans and bottles that I'm using. They might be different for the ones that you're using. But when you're measuring, it's 85 millimeters when you're cutting around the bottom here. So once we've cut it all out like this, we're leaving a 1.5 centimeters from the top to there. I just use my thumb as a guide so that it's easier for me, and I'll find a marking on the can or something. Like there's a little line where you can see, I don't know, on the barcode, that is 1.5 centimeters from the top. So we just cut it down. So once you've done that, your can is going to look like that. Now, as I said, the cans that I'm using and the bottles, these measurements are for these ones. But if you're using something different, all you're doing is you're taking your plastic roof tile that you've made and you're measuring just so that it sits like that inside it. And there you have the cappings to your roof tiles. So now we're cutting the top off. Now that your top is off, you're checking for your holes and just cutting a little bit to the side. I find using a pair of scissors a lot easier because the aluminium is very soft. The holes on the other side here, just over there. So we're going to cut just a little bit. As I said, I use this barcode line, the thick one here, as my marker, and turn it at that point and cut this piece out. I find when you roll the can, when you're cutting, it seems to go just that little bit easier. Now I take my little marker, which is there, measure by putting the end piece on the front there and just cutting where I've marked it so that they're all the same size. Your capping for your roof.